Happy New Year and Merry Christmas for everyone, and welcome again to the Iraqi Week. 2009 came as the world is still living crisis and catastrophic situation in Gaza Strip. The Palestinians under hard Israel attacks since Saturday, 27th of last month. Iraq made its first formal statement on Gaza event last Tuesday when the Foreign Ministry issued a release urging the international community to interfere and stop the Israel attacks on Gaza Strip. Iraqi President Jalal Talabani on Tuesday announced that Iraq demanded the UN Security Council to intervene and stop the inhuman Israel attacks on the Gaza Strip, noting that the Iraqi government will provide support and aid to the Strip's residents. Iraqi President Jalal Talabani on Tuesday announced that Iraq demanded the UN Security Council to intervene to stop the inhuman Israel attacks on Gaza Strip, noting that the Iraqi government will provide support and aid to the Strip's residents. This came during a press conference he held after the meeting with ambassador of the UNSC permanent countries, with the attendance of the two deputies Adel Abdul Mahdi and Tariq al-Hashimi, as well as Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. Iraq presented a memorandum of condemnation against the Israel inhuman attacks on the Gaza Strip. He said describing these attacks as a violation of international law. The Iraqi President Jalal Talabani and his two deputies and Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki asked the ambassadors of the permanent countries of the UN Security Council to inform the country's Iraqis' denunciation of the Israeli aggression of the Gaza Strip, urging them to intervene to stop the military operations, the head of the Presidential Divan Nasser al-Ani said on Tuesday. An official source has said earlier that the Iraqi President Jalal Talabani on Tuesday held a closed-door meeting with his two deputies, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, and ambassadors of the UN, Britain, France, Russia, China. The Iraqi government on Tuesday announced that they will send medical and food assistance to the Gaza Strip, which has been bombarded by Israeli warplanes. Hundreds of Palestinians were reported killed or wounded after Israeli F-16 bomber launched a series of airstrikes against multiple targets in Hamas-run territories. Israel said the operation was in response to rockets fires into Israel towns and villages by Hamas and other militant groups based in Gaza. Iraqi President Jalal Talabani and his two deputies and Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki asked the ambassadors of the permanent countries of the UN Security Council to inform the country's Iraqis' denunciation of the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip, urging them to intervene and stop the military operations, the head of the Presidential Divan Nasser al-Ani said on Tuesday. The meeting held tonight between Talabani and his two deputies, Adel Abdul Mahdi and Tariq al-Hashimi, and Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki and the other ambassadors, witnessed presentation of Iraqi condemnation memorandum on the Israel attacks on Gaza Strip, as well as requests to these countries to intervene to stop the aggression, al-Ani told news agencies. An official source has said earlier that Iraqi President Jalal Talabani on Tuesday held a closed-door meeting with two of his deputies and the other officials. The Iraqi government announced that it will send medical and food assistance to Gaza, in which has bordered by Israeli warplanes. In an article for the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, Scott Carpenter of the Washington Post wrote that the journalist hurling shoes at the U.S. president may be one lasting if twisted image of a freedom from Iraq. But the multiple elections scheduled for the year ahead are sure to offer other to demonstrate definitely whether Iraq's democratic experiment will be consolidated or will be imploded. If the incoming Obama's administration wants better image than flying shoes in December 2009, it had better be paying attention. According to the International Republican Institute, Iraq may hold as many as 10 elections in 2009, more than were held in the whole Arab world this year combined. These include the January provincial election, municipal and district council elections, the referendum on the security agreement with the United States, possible referendums on Kirkuk, and on whether the people of the Basra want to form an autonomous region in south like the one in Iraqi Kurdish area, and finally the parliamentary election set for the end of this year. Each election will provide an answer to a critical question about Iraqi's future. Can Iraq break free of paralyzing sectarianism? Can the Western Sunnis successfully re-enter the political space they abandoned in 2005? Will local authorities secure more independence from central Baghdad? Will there be federal region and other than Iraqi Kurdish area? Can Iraqi avoid a Savageal-like clashes over Kirkuk? Will there be peaceful transition of power from one group of politicians to other? These questions will not be easily answered, and each poses dangers and difficulties for the current government and for the United States, which hopes to be out of the country by 2011, if not sooner. But beyond plan of the being of the drowned town of the U.S. forces, the Obama transition team has so far given little indication of its objective in Iraq for 2009 or of how it will staff the problem. What will be administration's view for the other instance on the Basra referendum if autonomous of Basra is approved? This vote could eventually the partition of the advocated by Vice President-elect Joe Biden when he was a senator, what his administration views as much needed change to Iraqi's parliamentary electoral law. Unless this is amended, sectarian parties probably will continue to dominate in Baghdad. If militias or insurgents threaten to disrupt December's parliamentary elections, will the Obama administration secure these elections? And even if the U.S. troops have already pulled out of the cities, will a large National Security Council team headed by Deputy National Security Advisor coordinate policy and make recommendations to the President? Or will Hillary Rodham Clinton, a State Department, take the lead? Will there be a high-power ambassador in Iraq who's as capable as Ryan Crocker, the current ambassador, or will vacancy be allowed to linger? Each of these questions needed to be answered soon before Iraqis provide the electoral answers. Tens of property owners in Kirkuk City went on peaceful strike against a decision came out from Directorate of Sunni Endowment to chuck their lands in Tisan neighborhood in Kirkuk. The Iraqi Turkmen Front and other Turkmen parties participated in the protest, which was held on the trespass property originally backed to Turkmen citizens in Kirkuk City. The owners of the land documented their claims with legal bonds and real estate papers. In TV standby by the Iraqi Turkmen Front Executive Committee member Mr. Arshad al-Salehi asked the central government in Baghdad to interfere and stop the violations and land trespass on lands belonging originally to citizens from Tisin area in Kirkuk. Over 2 repeated days, Kirkuk City witnessed peaceful protests against decision came out from Directorate of Sunni Endowment to chuck their lands in Tisan neighborhood in Kirkuk. The Iraqi Turkmen Front and other Turkmen parties participated in the protests, which held on the trespass properties originally backed on Turkmen citizens in Kirkuk City. The owners of the land documented their claims with legal bonds and real estate papers. On TV standby by the Iraqi Turkmen Front Executive Committee member Mr. Arshad al-Salehi asked the central government in Baghdad to interfere and stop the violations and land trespass on lands belonging originally to citizens of Tisan area. Senior Kirkuk official of the National Reform Current and Kirkuk City Council member Ammar Kahya accused the Sunni Directorate of hiding political purpose behind this act. He said there might be political targets behind the land chalk, stressing that they can exact projects like this in any other places in Kirkuk. The demonstrators called the local government in province to prevent the establishment of any non-sports projects on the ground, that the patch and transfer to other places in the city in order to help young people to develop sports capability, noting that the pitch of more than 70 soccer teams from all spectrum of Kirkuk and from different regions and districts and areas of the city. Since the regime's time, the citizens of Tisan neighborhood are suffering from policy of land trespass, and these negative operations are still undergoing in Turkmens in Kirkuk, said Hidayet Kahya, the head of Tisan Consultant Council. Police Chief General Adel Zainal Abdin intervened to maintain the calm and the order to stop fencing the walls around the chocolate properties. All Kirkuk citizens showed the solidarity with Tisan people, urging the local government and Directorate of Sunni Endowment to stop the decision of land chockings. In Kirkuk, all components have shared their feelings with the Christians in their celebration for the New Year and Christmas festivals for 2009. Kirkuk Archbishop House had delivered a message to all worlds. The message urged the entire world to make 2009 year of hopes and peace. Christmas more powerful than persecution, the most frequently recurrent desire for Iraqi Christian families is to participate in problem connected to security to not permit this, but the road remains for the future. Dr. Luis Sacco, Archbishop of the Diocese of the Kirkuk, issued through our TV a message of a good wishes to the faithful. For me, Christmas, the prelate says, means being ribbon each day, everyday difficulty. For the Christian community in Kirkuk, the most eagerly awaited Christmas gift is participation at celebrations and masses. It is a wish that again the year cannot be fulfilled. Nighttime celebrations are banned for reasons connected to security, but there remains the hopes that one day the country may recover peace and freedom. This is the essential reason promoting families to remain amid difficulties and sufferings and to testify with the lives of the deepest meaning of the Christmas celebrations. During these days of Advent, the TÜRKMEN TV has met the families from Kirkuk, thanks to whom one may seek to understand the atmosphere surrounding preparations for Christmas and the meaning of the feast in the area marked by conflict and violence. Kirkuk's Archbishop, Dr. Luis Sacco, gave his congratulations through our TV to all the world.
I think our celebration of the New Year and also before that of Christmas is a real expression of the peace, because the angels chanted the peace on earth, and we need peace, and also an expression of our hopes of health, love, and joy. Without peace, there is no life. So New Year, that means wishes of stability, prosperity, and also coexistence among people, individuals, and also communities.